Hello, it's Gurpreet from Anohka. Welcome to our warehouse. So this is where a lot of the magic behind whiskey happens. And the two things I want to talk about are our crazy environment in Alberta. We are blessed with a climate that, goes from plus 35 in the summer down to minus 35 in the winter. So we have this 70-degree temperature swing throughout the year. And that does crazy things to our whiskey, because you can see our building here is not insulated. And the second thing I want to talk about is the specific location on the farm where we built this warehouse is actually something that is very unique to where we are, and actually atypical for Alberta. So we've got this one specific location which kind of bucks the trend of the rest of the province and the rest of the geography around us. And then we also have this really interesting climate where things get super, super hot in the summer. In fact, in this warehouse in the summer, we hit almost 40 degrees Celsius. And in the winter, we go down below minus 25 degrees Celsius. So we have this huge temperature variation. And what that does is it changes the pressure inside the barrels. When it gets really, really hot, the pressure builds in the barrels, everything expands, and it drives the whiskey deep into the wood. And then when it gets cold, it actually pulls all that whiskey back into the barrel. And actually every day we have about a 20-degree temperature swing in the warehouse. And so you'll have this expansion and contraction happening on a much smaller level every day. And then the seasonal difference is actually absolutely incredible. And we found that is I've got a whiskey in my hand right now that's 3 years old that I bet you we could put up blind against 12-year-old whiskeys from Scotland, and you'd be hard-pressed to tell the difference in terms of age. And so that's the really cool thing about the environment that we have. In the winter, in fact, it rains in here because the humidity in the air freezes on the roof at night, and then during the day the sun comes out because we have incredibly sunny but cold winters, and the sun heats up the metal roof, and then it rains. And so we've created our own little microclimate inside this warehouse. And the thing that kind of drives that is the thing that is unique to this specific location. And so we built this warehouse on top of the wettest part of the entire farm. In our first year of growing barley on the farm, we noticed that the barley here grew almost a foot taller than almost anywhere else on the farm. What we decided, and the issue we were having with our whiskey, was that where we were aging it before was far too dry, and the barrels were drying, and once the whiskey was starting to evaporate out of the barrels, the top staves had nothing touching them. They would dry out, and then our evaporative losses would increase exponentially, and we were losing like 20% of our whiskey in a year, which is crazy. And so we needed to fix that. And also the wrong things were leaving the barrel. In a dry environment, more stable compounds like water leave the barrel and the ABV goes up. The more volatile things like alcohol and some of the harsh components in young whiskey were staying in the barrel. And what we found is now that we have a humid environment, we actually are able to get rid of those really harsh components, and those are what are evaporating away first. And it's actually making the whiskey incredibly smooth, really gentle in the mouth, and really delicate without any of the harshness that you would expect from such a young whiskey. And that's due to the fact that it's humid. And the way we achieve that high humidity in this warehouse is we built the warehouse right on top of the wettest part of the farm. And when we noticed that the barley was growing really tall here, we dug a hole to kind of explore what was going on underground. And if you go about 2 meters down, there is basically this underground river underneath this part of the farm. And it's just this narrow little band where that's happening. And we basically built a clay floored warehouse over top of that wettest area of the farm. And my theory was at the time that that would allow us to pull moisture up through the ground and humidify this building. And so on a day like today, it's nearly 100% humidity in here. The average relative humidity in this warehouse throughout the entire year is about 82% humidity. You know, if you go outside here in Alberta, your average relative humidity in the middle of summer, standing outside or up in our other building, is about somewhere between 0 and 5% relative humidity. So bone dry. And so we've created this super, super unique environment where we still take advantage of the huge temperature swings we have in Alberta, but also found a way to naturally humidify the space so that we could make sure that our whiskey matured exactly the way we wanted to.